First Nocturne. Lesson from the first letter of St. Paul the Apostle to the Corinthians. Now concerning the thing whereof you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. But for fear of fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render the debt to his wife, and the wife also in like manner to the husband. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband. And in like manner the husband also hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud not one another, except perhaps by consent, for a time, that you may give yourselves to prayer, and return together again, lest Satan tempt you for your incontinency. But I speak this by indulgence, not by commandment. For I would that all men were even as myself, but every one hath his proper gift from God, one after this manner, and another after that. But I say to the unmarried, and to the widows, it is good for them if they so continue, even as I. But if they do not contain themselves, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to be burnt. But to them that are married, not I but the Lord commandeth, that the wife depart not from her husband. And if she depart, that she remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband. And let not the husband put away his wife. For to the rest I speak, not the Lord. If any brother hath a wife that believeth not, and she consent to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And if any woman hath a husband that believeth not, and he consent to dwell with her, let her not put away her husband. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the believing wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the believing husband. Otherwise your children should be unclean, but now they are holy. Second Nocturne. Paul the first hermit, and model of all others, was a native of the lower Thebaid in Egypt. At the age of 15 years he lost both his parents. In order to escape from the persecution of Decius and Valerian, and to serve God in quietness, he betook himself to a cave in the desert. Here there was a palm tree, on the fruit of which he lived, and of whose leaves he made his raiment until he attained the age of 113 years. At that time Anthony, being already a nonagenarian, received a command from God to go and see him. They met without knowing one another's names, and saluted one another, after which they fell straightway into a long discourse concerning the kingdom of God. Now it so happened that a raven had of a long time brought Paul every day half a loaf, but on this day while they spake together he brought a whole one. When the raven had flown away, well, quoth Paul, the Lord hath sent us our dinner. Truly he is gracious, truly he is merciful. It is now 60 years that I have had half a loaf of bread every day, but now that thou art come, Christ giveth his soldiers double rations. Then they asked a blessing, and ate together, sitting by a spring. When they were refreshed, they returned thanks, as is the custom, and afterward spent the whole night praising God. At break of day Paul felt the approach of death, and desired Anthony to bring the cloak which Athanasius had given him, to use for his winding sheet. While Anthony was on his way back from this journey, he saw in a vision the soul of Paul ascending to heaven, surrounded by choirs of angels, and accompanied by the prophets and apostles. When Anthony reached the cell of Paul, he found the dead body of the saint in a kneeling posture, with the head thrown up and the hands stretched out towards heaven. He immediately began to chant the psalms and hymns ordained by Christian tradition, while he wrapped the body in the cloak of Athanasius. He had no spade to dig a grave, but 2 lions came roaring from the desert, as though to attend the burying, and scratched a hole big enough to hold a man's body, with their paws, showing meanwhile such signs of grief as their nature alloweth. When they were gone away, Anthony put the holy body in this hole, covered it with earth, and arranged it like a Christian's grave. He took away for himself Paul's tunic, which he had woven out of the palm leaves somewhat after the manner of basket-work, and this tunic Anthony was in the habit of wearing on the great days of the Passover and Pentecost as long as he lived. Third Nocturne. From the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time Jesus spoke and said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you hid these things from the wise and prudent, and revealed them to little ones. Yes, Father, for such was your good pleasure. All things have been delivered to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and him to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden light. Laus tibi, Christa. Homily by St. Augustine, Bishop of Hippo. Come unto me, all ye that labor. And wherefore labor we all, but because we are frail, sickly, dying creatures, burdened with earthen vessels which distress us. But if these fleshly vessels be distressful, let the open expanse of love be free and wide. Come unto me, all ye that labor. And why? That we may labor no more. His promise is an instant promise, for he calleth such as are laboring. Perchance they will ask him what shall be their reward. And I, saith he, will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me not how to make the world, not how to create all things visible and invisible, not to work wonders in the earth, nor to raise the dead, but for I am meek and lowly in heart. Wilt thou be great? Begin by being little. Dost thou think to raise up a lofty building? Then lay the foundations thereof in lowliness. The greater soever, and the more massy, be that which any man thinketh to build, so much the deeper doth he dig his foundation. And when the house is built, it towereth heavenward. But he which layeth the foundation goeth down into the earth. The building, therefore, is low before it is high, and after it is low, it riseth high to the roof. Commemoration of Saint Maur, Abbot. Maurus was born of a noble Roman family, and while he was yet a child was offered to God by his father Eutychius, in the order and under the personal teaching of Saint Benedict. In a short while he made such progress in the life of grace that he became a wonder to his master, who often held him up to his other disciples as a pattern of regular observance and all virtues. While he was yet very young, Pope St. Gregory telleth a wonderful instance of his obedience. Placid the monk having fallen into a lake where he was being swept away by the current, the holy patriarch called Maurus and bade him run to the rescue, which he did, walking on the water till he reached Placid, whom he took by the hair of the head and dragged to the shore. He was sent by Saint Benedict into France, where he founded the celebrated monastery of Glanfuil, now called Saint Maur-sur-Loire, which he governed for 40 years. He was a zealous and successful propagator of monastic discipline. He passed to heaven, famous for holiness and miracles, when he was more than 70 years of age, in the year of salvation 565.